Having the CAA, bill passed and having the provisions made clear and public, and implementing them would actually ensure a better life for them here. But it's very scary. It's very scary. I mean, I think we would see the numbers falling to zero in all the neighboring countries if India does backtrack on this one. What usually the abductors do is they kidnap these young girls, they keep them, in dark rooms, and then they brutalize them over days, and they bring them to a state wherein, they then are converted to another religion. And this conversion is captured on camera. So they make a little video of the conversion process to Islam. And then this video is then used in the judiciary if if the family of the child goes to court saying that there are children, and that's our child and we want her back, and this marriage or this conversion is not valid. So I think the only answer is for us to organize ourselves more as a global community and make ourselves a very powerful negotiating power in that sense,
Right.
that people would be forced to speak about the atrocities that our people face around the world.
Hello, very good evening, namaste, and welcome to Citti Media. I'm your host, Sharon Citti. Joining us today is somebody very special. She's been on our platform earlier, and she is an activist for Hindu human rights, Rashmi Samant. Rashmi, thank you so much for joining us again for a conversation.
Namaste, and thank you for having me on your platform yet again.
Always a pleasure talking to you. Imagine this situation where you have a 14 or a 15 or a 16-year-old daughter in the Sindh province of Pakistan, and you find out that she has been kidnapped. And in a couple of hours, she's been taken across the border, state border, all the way to Punjab, and she's married there forcefully because the legal age for marriage is 16 years. And then she's converted to Islam forcefully again. And then you appeal to the judiciary, you appeal to the police, you go in front of the police station, you cry. There is nobody to even care about what happened to you and your community. And this is what the Hindus are facing in Sindh province. And Rashmi, you've been talking about this for a while now. The first question, what anybody would ask is, what can people like you and I, who care about human rights, and especially of those of Hindu human rights in places like Pakistan and Afghanistan, can do all the way sitting in Karnataka or Delhi?
Firstly, I think this is such a grave situation, especially for the dharmic people in Pakistan. Around the statistics say that 1,000 to 2,000 girls every year are abducted and subjected to this forceful conversion and child marriage against their will. They're taken away from their families. They never get in touch with them again, and it's horrendous. But these numbers are just what's hearsay. Pakistan media is very well known for hiding the numbers, for blotching the statistics, for not letting free flow of information, especially that of its minority. So we really don't know what the real situation is. I think we sitting outside, the best thing that we can do is create awareness, but that's not enough. The second thing that we can do is push our governments to start citizen resettlement schemes for the persecuted minorities of our neighboring states, not just India, but there are other countries too, like the UK and US, and many Hindus today are citizens of these countries.
Right. And international reports are reflecting that 1,000 girls are kidnapped per year. So the statistics only are horrifying, and what can happen to these communities in the next 5 to 10 years is perhaps unimaginable. And we have come at a crossroads where geopolitics in Afghanistan has seen a massive turn, with the United States also exiting from that place rather embarrassingly. Now, all those communities have nowhere to go, especially the Sikh, Christian, and the Hindu communities. And in the wake of what is happening with the government conceding defeat on the farm laws, it seems that the next target is CA and RC. So does this worry you?
It does worry me, absolutely it does, because the situation, the numbers of minorities in these countries have dropped exponentially over the years. It's not a joke. They're being violently persecuted. It's almost ethnic cleansing. And the fact that the only neighboring country that was sympathetic to their situation is now under pressure by by malicious forces within the country to curtail this move is very worrisome. And I think it was literally the last hope that these dharmics had in these countries, that they would come looking for a better life. Or even the few Pakistani Hindus who have actually managed to make it to India across the border. They live in slums now, and having the CAA, bill passed and having the provisions made clear and public, and implementing them would actually ensure a better life for them here. But it's very scary. It's very scary. I mean, I think we would see the numbers falling to zero in all the neighboring countries if India does backtrack on this one.
Right. And you've been very vocal about this in the last few weeks. What exactly are the problems, especially in Sindh province, that concerns the Hindu community, for any of our viewers who may not be aware in detail?
So Sindh is this one region where the Hindus, the
And
majority of
especially
Hindus,
because Sindh was known as a melting pot of all religions,
all
right? And if
religions.
this is happening in that region, it's even more concerning. Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, Sindh is actually incidentally also an area in Pakistan where all of the Hindus are majorly residing. So the minority Hindus are majorly in Sindh. And it's also the hotbed of all the atrocities that have been going on forever. Due to some, the Hindus have been protesting. They've been looking for better laws. Some politicians try to take up the cause locally and try to pass an anti-forced conversion bill in the Sindh parliament, and they were successful in doing so. But I think days after passing the law, they were under excruciating pressure from local religious leaders to take the laws back, to scrap them, and they ended up scrapping them in literally 2 3 days after. Literally a few days after passing those laws in the parliament. This shows how much the majority community has converged, and how much hand in glove it is, and how much force it wields when it comes to
Right.
literally getting the judiciary, getting the political system down to its knees, and ensuring that there's ongoing ethnic cleansing of Hindus in the Sindh area.
You're right. Rashmi, you're right. And also, one of the arguments that is said today, just to brush off the citation of a particular reason to this problem, is that Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh are constitutionally Islamist countries, so you can't really hope for much. But at the end of the day, Pakistan is a democracy. And in a democracy, when you have lost all hopes, the last place you would wind up is at the court. And now the court has systematically protected all of these radical elements. They've allowed child rape and child marriages to happen. So, could you give us some insights into what your research shows?
I think the thing that the country and the judiciary and everybody did was pass the infamous blasphemy laws. And these laws, unfortunately, give no rights whatsoever to the minorities once they are converted. So, it's punishable by death to speak out against the religion that they've been converted into forcefully, even so. And the judiciary enables this sort of this sort of treatment of minorities under the blasphemy law. So what usually the abductors do is they kidnap these young girls, they keep them in dark rooms, and then they brutalize them over days, and they bring them to a state wherein they then are converted to another religion, and this conversion is captured on camera. So they make a little video of the conversion process. to Islam. And then this video is then used in the judiciary if if the family of the child goes to court saying that there are children and that's our child and we want her back, and this marriage or this conversion is not valid, saying that would mean death sentence for the family, because there's this record of the person being converted to Islam, and then blasphemy enables death sentence to anybody who questions this acceptance or
It's
this.
essentially, they're very tactically subverting judiciary as well.
I think the judiciary very well knows what is going on. It is just that the entire system is hand in glove, and they've come up with systems to to legally enable brutalization, brutality over children, and it's actually against the fundamental rights of children, which the United Nations Charter for Children says that children have the basic right to be happy and to live a fulfilled life, and that itself is taken away from them at a very young age. And there's this whole country with its judiciary and political progress that is enabling this kind of atrocity. So,
and very unfortunately, this is not just limited to the Hindu community. Of course, they're the ones who are at the receiving end to a very large extent, but it's also happening to non-Shia Sunni communities, right?
Yes, unfortunately, other dharmics like Sikhs, Buddhists, Christians, and other non-Muslim communities like Christians and Ahmadiyas within the Christian this thing, and even I think to some extent the non-Sunnis, but mostly the Ahmadiyas. Even the Ahmadiyya girls are subjected to this sort of brutalization that goes on to show how radical the elements are. For for the elements to be not accepting of a different way within their own religion, it shows how far down the pipeline of radicalization these elements are, and that Hindus stand no chance in front of
but Rashmi, what surprises me even more is that the multilateral organizations and international institutions, they are very vocal about certain isolated incidents that happen in places like India or other pre-developing countries. But especially when it comes to Afghanistan and Pakistan, you don't see those many reports. It doesn't, fit into the top priority in their agenda.
I think, Sharan, and very unfortunately so, all organizations have agendas now which go beyond human rights. Though they claim to champion human rights, they do champion a lot of other rights and a lot of other roles within the international setting. And in a bid to not tip over certain lines, they unfortunately end up picking up isolated events to make certain countries look bad, whereas not call out countries which commit human rights violations on a daily basis. So it's the unfortunate times that we live in, that the very organizations which are supposed to uphold human rights are engaged in other activities, such as pushing certain propagandas and covering certain lies. I mean covering up certain truths, and making it a.
What do you think is the solution for this? Because it's reached such a despicable state that you cannot rely on the internal mechanisms and the institutions of Pakistan to sort of maintain checks and balances over these issues, from at least preventive measures, right, from further happening. That's not going to happen. So what else, what other solutions do you propose?
I honestly feel that in this day and age of social media, it's very easy for us to find out what's going on in Pakistan. At least there are videos coming out, there are pieces coming out. I think we as responsible Hindus must platform these pieces more and more in places that on platforms that we have access to. We need to take up the baton. We need to mobilize our community in a way that we are formidable enough for the rest of the world to not take us very lightly. So I think the only answer is for us to organize ourselves more as a global community and make ourselves a very powerful negotiating power in that in that sense,
Right.
that that people would be forced to speak about the atrocities that our people face around the world, not just in Pakistan, but also now in Bangladesh, in Afghanistan historically, also in many other countries which are very which are spoken about very little in
Right.
mainstream media.
Well, hopefully that happens soon. I mean, you're also right, because we've seen that happen in the case of Xinjiang, right? The Chinese can literally buy out the support from Pakistanis, and now there's not even a single noise that is being uttered about what is happening to the Uyghur Muslims there. And in fact, Prime Minister Imran Khan goes on to defend what is happening in China, and that's the state it's reached.
Unfortunately, I think human rights has just become very transactional, and it's not about the actual rights of humans or their emotions, but
Right.
what they seek to benefit from speaking for certain people and not for the others. So it's just become another business.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've had very little time, but you could manage to give us some time for this. Hopefully, you can join us again for a conversation. And viewers, please do let us know about what you thought exactly about this particular session. And do check out Rashmi's work. She has been researching a lot about this and writing a lot about this. And do spread awareness. And that's the best we can do at this particular point as individuals.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.